we have now had officially 22 draft picks at number 2 overall. And what I'd like to discuss with all of you this morning is I will tell you why I believe Aiden Hutchinson is destined for greatness. And a lot of it relies on history. So, since the year 2000, like I said, 22 players have been selected with the number 2 overall pick. Of those 22 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now have been defensive linemen. Who are those defensive linemen? Julius Peppers, Chris Long, Ndamukong Suh, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and now Aiden Hutchinson. Now, if you ask me, if there was ever a barometer of how successful a player will be, look at where they were taken, what their position is, and look at players also taken at that position and how they turned up. Now, Julius Peppers, Hall of Famer. Will be a Hall of Famer, I should say. Julius Peppers will and should be a Hall of Fame player. Chris Long, a very good career, a good player, very good at times. I wouldn't say a Hall of Fame player, but not a disappointing career. He had a good career. And Ndamukong Suh, very good, dominant early on. If you guys all remember, All-Pro his first year with the Detroit Lions. We move up recently, Nick Bosa. Everybody knows Nick Bosa in San Francisco. Chase Young with Washington. 2 very good players, very talented. And then you have Aiden Hutchinson obviously coming out. And I think Aiden Hutchinson, more than any player the Lions have drafted recently, is as close to this guy's going to work out. Not because of the story, not because of all the intangibles, the work ethic, the character. He's going to work out because that's what you do when you're picking number 2 overall. If you don't need a quarterback, that's the position you take. And the Lions did it. And in the last 22 years, all the teams that have addressed the defensive line position have all been very happy with their decisions. Julius Peppers, Chris Long, Ndamukong Suh, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and now Aiden Hutchinson. Now add him up. That doesn't mean he's going to work out in the league. Yes, I'm very aware of that. But history tends to always repeat itself. And it tells a very unique story. And if I were to tell you that Aiden Hutchinson had the career of, let's say, one of those individuals, we'll use Chris Long as an example. If you guys remember, before the draft, I told you I believed Aiden Hutchinson was a minimum 70 career sack player. Minimum. Chris Long? How many career sacks? Anybody want to take a guess? Career sacks. All of you have an open mic. Chris Long, no? 70. 70 career sacks. So if Aiden Hutchinson's floor is the quote-unquote worst guy selected at number 2 overall in the last 22 years on the defensive line position, you walk away pretty happy with that. You're walking away pretty damn happy with that. That is consistent production over a 10, 12, 14-year career. Depends how long he plays in the NFL. Now, do I expect him to be Aaron Donald, Reggie White, TJ Watt? No. That's not the conversation. Will he produce in the NFL? My money would be on Aiden Hutchinson to produce in the NFL. Yes. And I think he was the surest bet to get production, short-term and long-term, out of a majority of the players coming out this year. I think the Detroit Lions are in a really, really good spot. NFL Draft Junkie says the NFL Network compared Aiden to Jared Allen. Jared Allen is an interesting player. What? They're both 6'6", correct? Roughly about the same weight, similar engines. What I would say is Jared Allen, if you want to say Aiden Hutchinson can be or is Jared Allen, what I would say is I expect 20 sacks in the first 2 years because that's what Jared Allen gave me. And then when you reach the apex and the beginning of your career, your prime, you get me 15 and a half, 14 and a half, 14 and a half, 11, 22, and 12. That's what you get me. For a 6-7 year stretch, that's what you get me. And that's what we're talking about. With Julius Peppers, I can look him up and give you the same stat line. Julius Peppers, another player taken number 2 overall, Julius Peppers, a guy with 160 career sacks. Adham, Julius Peppers, what did he do his first 2 years? 19 sacks. And then year 3, 4, and 5, 11, 11, and 13. And then he got injured. Or actually, he didn't get injured in 2007. He just had a really bad year. And then it was 14 sacks, 10.5 sacks, 8 sacks, 11, 11.5. I don't need 20 sacks a year. This is one of the common flaws with evaluating defensive ends. I don't need 20 sacks a year. Hell, I don't need 15. You know what I need? I need 8 to 13 consistently, year in and year out. And I need a ton of quarterback pressures. And I need a ton of quarterback hits. That's what I need. I don't need 22.5, 23 sacks, defensive player of the years. Cool. Would love it. Awesome. Definitely great. If you're that great, love it. Not a must. Julius Peppers, Hall of Fame player? I think so. 160 career sacks. Yeah, I'll take that. Oh, Chris Long? Aiden Hutchinson's floor is Chris Long, let's say. Cool. 70 career sacks. 12 seasons. 5.5, 6 sacks a year. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. It's not ideal. I wouldn't be thrilled with only 70, but he wasn't a bust. He played in the NFL at a high level for a long time. It wasn't elite, but it was above average. That's what you're looking for. I think the Lions got the closest thing to a sure thing in Aiden Hutchinson. And it's not about, again, the motor, the character, the intangibles, whatever you want to label it. What we're discussing this morning with Aiden Hutchinson is I'm going to look at his position, who has been taken at his position, or damn near it, at number 2 overall in the last 20 years, 22 years. Peppers, Chris Long, Bosa, Chase Young, and Ndamukong Suh. Yeah, the teams that take that position at that pick are that happy, by the way. Very happy. The Lions shouldn't regret taking Suh. Hell of a pick. It didn't work out for obvious reasons. But he was all-pro year 1. Don't forget that. Chris Long, was he Julius Peppers? Was he TJ Watt even to that apex level? Was he Aaron Donald? No, it's not ideal that the number 2 overall pick isn't a 100 career sack guy. But Chris Long was effective in the NFL. And he was a good player. Again. And do you want Aiden Hutchinson only to be good? No, you want him to be very good. You want him to be special. That's why you take him number 2 overall. But this is why we had this whole concept, this whole train of ideas and thoughts for months and months leading up to the draft of why you don't draft a quarterback, Malik Willis, at number 2 overall. Why you don't take Kyle Hamilton number 2 overall. Why is because if I go, for example, over the last 22 years, and I look at players taken not at the defensive end position. All right. Well, since the year 2000, I have Leonard Davis, who's a guard, 3-time Pro Bowler. Charles Rogers, I'm sure you all remember. That didn't work out. Offensive tackle Robert Gallery, okay. Reggie Bush, Ronnie Brown, okay. Calvin Johnson, here we go. That's your first Hall of Famer. Jason Smith, offensive tackle, okay. Nothing special. How could I forget, by the way, Von Miller, labeled as a linebacker, but a pass rusher. Robert Griffin III, quarterback, didn't work out. Marcus Mariota didn't work out. Mitch Trubisky didn't work out. Saquon Barkley didn't work out. Greg Robinson, meh. Luke Jokel, okay. Zach Wilson, way too early to tell. You notice any safeties in there? I didn't, maybe my 1 second, guys. I didn't see any safeties or secondary players. Any middle linebackers? No? Huh. Oh, the teams that took running backs are disappointed with who they took? Ronnie Brown, Reggie Bush, Saquon Barkley? Oh, you're disappointed? Oh, the teams that took a quarterback? All disappointed? Oh. Really? Whoops. Oh, the teams that took offensive tackles, hit or miss 50% of the time? Okay. Huh. Very interesting. Oh, the last 2 defensive ends taken? And number 2 overall? Both won Defensive Player of the Year? See where I'm going with this? Sure, you got a good player. If history repeats itself, Aiden Hutchinson will win Defensive Player of the Year. If history repeats itself, his floor is 70 career sacks. His ceiling is upwards of damn near 170. Not bad if you ask me, huh? We spent months on this. Months building up to the draft. Why you take a defensive end. That's why. That's why. Not because other players aren't good players. Not because they, again, don't have value. Kyle Hamilton at number 2, huh? That was the hill. That was where we were planting our flags. Oh, Malik Willis, right? The guy that fell to 86? Number 2 overall, yeah. Okay. You guys really, yeah. And you know what's funny? It's we broke down the film, Adam. Yeah. You notice I'll never tell you, hey, I'm breaking down film. I'll never use that as my reason, ever. That's such a weak answer. I'll tell you why. The film doesn't say everything. And even if the film tells you everything you want to, the film will tell you and show you what you want to see. And if you're really good, you'd have a job in the NFL. Because I'm not paying you in the NFL to find things on film that I want to see. I want you to show me on film the things I don't want to see. The things that aren't good. Because that's how you get better. That's how you identify potential. Number 2 overall. Quarterback that fell to 66 and a safety that went middle of the first round. What are we doing here, Maddie? What are we doing here? I tried saving people from this. And I'm glad the Lions, obviously with Brad Holmes, know what they're doing right now.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Is that the saying?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Or just don't be a bitch.
Let's have an open, honest conversation this morning. All right? Should you be excited about your football team? I believe so, yes. I think Brad Holmes has done a very good job bringing in talent to a football team that I could say easily. 2 off seasons ago, it was a disaster, especially post-Matthew Stafford trade. The team had no talent at all, outside of an injured corner who was coming off his rookie year. It is not ideal. And here we are now with an opportunity after 2 drafts. Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 interior linemen, Derek Barnes, Jamar Jefferson. You can go down to this year's draft class. Are they proven commodities? Are they players that you know are going to work? No. Oh, Adam, you can't grade the Lions draft this year. The hell I can. You know why? It's this simple. I don't need to know what they're going to be. What were they coming out of college? Where were they on the draft boards? Where did the Lions take them? Aiden Hutchinson, number 1 consensus on most teams' draft board. You got him at number 2. Pretty damn good value, if you ask me. You trade up 20 spots essentially for a 3rd-round pick, which is unheard of. And who do you end up with? Arguably the number 1 wide receiver in the draft class at pick number 12, when the wide receivers were flying off the board. Drake London at 7. Garrett Wilson at 10. Chris Olave at 11. And you snag Jameson Williams at number 12. Yes, I can't tell you if by week 10 they're going to be this phenomenal football player. No, I can't. But I can tell you that Detroit, you got 2 very talented players on both sides of the ball at picks and positions I didn't believe you would be able to. That's a good thing. You can go to Josh Pascal a kid out of Kentucky, who really helped change that program. Are they a football program now? No, you have to win. But, hey, they're much better than what they were years and years ago. It was a big part of it. They're doing a great job there over at Kentucky. But beyond the point, you get Kirby Joseph at 97. A lot of people didn't expect him to be there, but he was there. And now you've addressed 4 positions of need. 4 positions of need. And again, you're adding talent to this football team. So, yeah, you should be excited, ladies and gentlemen. You should be excited. Now, should you be division winning 11, 12, 13 wins excited? Maybe I am wrong, but I just don't see it. And I think it would be a damn shame, if this football team didn't minimum win at least 7 games. Given I believe they have taken a step forward in terms of talent, I do believe that a full year with Dan Campbell, not only with Dan Campbell, but a full year not only with Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, you are going to have guys, how do I explain this without sounding too optimistic? Let me put it this way, guys. No bullshit. Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell worked wonders with the same roster, if not a more depleted roster on offense last year than Anthony Lynn did, with the full roster available to him to start the year. Now, are they going to be world beaters? Probably not. Is Jameson Williams going to come into week 4, week 5, and just take the top off of defenses right away? We've seen it happen before with wide receivers. I wouldn't bet my money on it. I want to know what you guys think. And I'm not going to tell you to adjust your expectations unless you truly, truly believe this is a division-winning team. If you believe that, I would caution you. And I would put my arm around your shoulder, and I'd say, hey, man, hear me out. Not this year. Now, could it happen? Absolutely. In the NFL, let's be real, anything can happen. And you don't ever want to put yourself in a position where you're sitting there thinking, hey, you know what? Not only do I think they can win 8, 9, 10 games, I think they can win the division. I wouldn't do that in a year 2 where if this was Dan Campbell's year 1, and next year was his year 2, I would say you could win the division in year 2. I would. Because the talent, there's a lot of talent now, and next year will be another year. But where they were last year to where they are this year is head and shoulders. I just don't think that's good enough to consistently win 11, 12 football games. And again, you still have to prove you can beat the Packers, have to prove you can beat the Vikings. A lot of games on the schedule, but we'll take our first caller of the day. Fish, who do we got?
All right, we have Max from Denver, Colorado.
Max
he is here
from
to talk
Denver.
Lions. He
All
is
right.
on the airwaves.
All right, Max, good morning. You're on the morning show, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, so I saw the tweet about, like, what do you think is going to happen with Jared Goff, or what do we think Jared Goff is about? And I think that Jared Goff is a good enough quarterback, and I think that he'll do all right for the Lions this year. But I think that the reason why we're probably not going to see him after this year or after we draft a new quarterback next year, if that's where we end up going, is because he's not the same type of football player that everyone else we're trying to get is. Like, everyone we've drafted has been this hardcore, quote-unquote, gritty, play football 100% of the time. I don't want to be off the field. I want to be given my 100% in training or in a game right now. Don't have me doing this interview like Jameson Williams. He was sort of showing, like, I'm not really happy with this interview in some random-ass studio. 3 days later, we see him in an interview with a football in his hand on the practice field, and he's like, man, I love being here. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, look, it's all good, Max.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Look, I'll tell you this. I think it's premature to move off of Jared Goff at the end of the year unless there are 2 scenarios that work out. One, they're able to trade up in the draft and get the guy they want regardless of their record. Or B, he plays like butt cheeks this year. And then you move off and you don't have to trade up because you're going to have a top pick anyways. So there is a scenario for me where he can move off at the end of the year. I still think Brad Holmes sees this guy as the starter for the next 2 years.
I think that 2 years is likely if we go and draft a new quarterback and by the end of training camp or whatever, they aren't blowing us away and we think, all right, let's give him another year to sit under, have him play in some of the smaller games, get a little experience. sort of like they're doing with Trey Lance right now, but I don't think that Jared Goff has a long-term say, even if he plays like incredibly well and has us competing for the division this year, which is unlikely, or like getting the division next year. I think even if we win the division, he's just not the same character fit that the rest of the team is, and that the team really just wants some hardcore dog who's going to constantly just be throwing himself in the game and trying to get us like past the sticks like Josh Allen to make the play. And I just don't see Jared Goff doing that. Nothing against him. I just don't think it's his play style or his
Me
mentality
personally,
for the
Max,
football game.
I don't look too much into that. For me, what I want from a quarterback is, can you make the throws when I need you to make them? Are you a leader of men? Is Jared Goff all of that and a bag of nuts? Probably not. I don't believe he's a franchise quarterback. I don't believe anybody in this town believes he's a franchise quarterback. So there is already subconsciously building a, hey, you know what, we are eventually going to move off this guy, which makes it a little easier for me to tolerate him if he doesn't play exceptionally well. So I would agree with you. This team will need a franchise quarterback in the future. I appreciate the call, Max. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. So, that's just one part and one instance of Jared Goff, and I respect it. Again, yeah, I don't need any of you to like Jared Goff. I don't. I don't care. That's the bridge quarterback. I know I'm moving off of him, so why the hell do I care? When I'm ready, I'll make the move for a quarterback. And Zach brought up an interesting point. Zach said that the problem with Goff, it's not that he's not good enough. The problem is that good enough is acceptable, or it's fine, but Jared Goff is making too much money. But Zach, what I would say to that is you using Mariota, Trubisky, and Bridgewater as the group to put Goff in, I think is incorrect. Goff falls under the category of, hell, to be honest with you, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill. That's the group. And if you want to throw Jimmy G in there, fine, but I'm just saying Jimmy G is a winning quarterback, much more successful than any of the quarterbacks I just named. But beyond the point, these are guys that are good enough, right? You can win football games with them. You could definitely win football games with these guys. But they're not carrying your franchise. And yes, you're paying them all $30+ million. Tannehill, Cousins, Jimmy G, Dak Prescott. You're paying all these guys. And they are just good enough. We don't even talk about Dak. Dak is just a good enough quarterback right now. He hasn't proven that without an excellent run game, excellent offensive line, that he can carry your team above water. These are the good enough quarterbacks. Yes, you want Justin Herbert. Yes, you want Josh Allen. But Detroit, you can win division titles with good enough. You can win playoff games with good enough. How? You compensate it with talent and coaching. You can win with Jared Goff. I'm not saying you're going to win a Super Bowl. But don't sit here and talk to me about a Super Bowl when you're a franchise that in 58 years has one playoff game. Or, one playoff win. You can't tell me that. You can kiss my ass. You can't tell me Super Bowl or bust expectations. Kiss my ass. You are not allowed to have that expectation at all. You start with winning the division. Building blocks here. Win the division. Contend consistently. Win playoff games. How about you host a playoff game, dare I say, Jesus Christ. We actually host a playoff game in this town. Start there. And then we talk about Super Bowl expectations. Buffalo earned the right to have Super Bowl or bust expectations. They won their division for multiple years in a row. They've been contending. They've been growing under Josh Allen. They've won playoff games. They've lost heartbreaking playoff games. You don't get it all instantly. And there's no rookie quarterback last year, this year, or next year that you would put into this team this year that would make you a Super Bowl contender. So shut the hell up. Harry, I like to think I'm very fair when it comes to my criticism of the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
All right? Maybe people don't think that, but I like to believe
people don't think
I'm
that.
pretty objective. Last year I told you 3 wins. That's exactly what they got. It was looking like 0-17 at one point, but we don't need to talk about that. This year, yeah, I'm with you, Terry. I think 6-8 is very doable. I'll go in the middle. I'll meet you halfway and say 7.
Okay.
And it wouldn't surprise me. Let me just say that. It wouldn't surprise me if this was a 9-win football team. Let me say that. It would not surprise me at all because I believe they're going to be a pain in the ass to play against. And if Aaron Glenn can elevate the defense from 31st and 32nd in the league to 20 and 18, 20 and 21 even, I think the offense, the run game, the offensive line, the weapons they'll have at wide receiver. I don't even want to consider Hawkinson because he hasn't been elite in terms of production, but he's a threat at least. He is on the field. And when he is healthy on the field, he is a threat. And if Jared Goff can have a full season like he did down the stretch last year, yeah, you're looking at a good football team. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, here's what I think is going to happen. If they're going to win 9 games, Jared Goff is going to have the ball 3 times at his 20 or 25-yard line, 2 minutes and 20 seconds left or whatever, or a minute 50 left, trailing by 3 points. He's got to either guide them to a field goal and win it in overtime or score a touchdown. Is he capable of doing that 3 times
A game?
a season?
I'd say twice. Sure, I could buy it. 3?
Then that puts us at 8.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, look, I don't think he's going to pull wins out of his, let's just be frank, wins out of his ass like Matthew Stafford did during his time in Detroit. I don't think he's that guy where in the fourth quarter he'll be able to drive you down the field when all things are grim or they look hopeless. But again, Terry, I think the way they're going to play football this year, I think the way the team is built, the way it's set up is they're going to improve in terms of run defense. I think coverage-wise in the passing game, they'll be much better. They'll be able to get to the quarterback now, which was funny because I was told, Terry, again, information that I was given. This isn't me. And the information I was given from the quote-unquote protectors of the Lions Gate and all the Lions people that know everything about the Lions and the fans, right? Those people. They told me that the Lions weren't going to take an edge rusher at 2 because they extended Charles Harris for 2 years. Did you know, Terry, at picks 2 and 46, they took an edge rusher?
Yes.
2 of their first 3 picks were an edge rusher.
Yes.
So here. Here you go. To all of you that morning. Or this morning.
Oh, you
excuse
know
me.
what? There's a young man who does a show after this named Neil Rule.
I
And
love
you know what
Neil.
he guaranteed?
Blast him,
What do you
Perry.
guarantee?
He guaranteed the Lions would take a quarterback in the first or second
He
round.
did.
Guaranteed. And he was all snobby.
yeah.
He was all, they're going to take a quarterback.
Well-
Watch it. You heard it here first.
He was pissed because no one believed him, and then Scott Bischoff came out. Everyone's like, "Ooh, that sounds great! Yeah, Malik Willis said too." So he was angry that no one believed
And
him.
I'm sitting here telling you it's an edge rusher for the longest time. And I told you, again, we don't need to
Draft the
bring up what happened.
cocaine.
We don't need to bring up what happened, all right?
Well,
all there.
let me defend those people that you consider
It makes
stupid.
sense, though, to be fair to them.
They were told
They were
by
told.
a previous coach, "Oh, you don't have to rush the quarterback. You can lay back and play good defense, and everything will work out fine." So they kind of believed him, even though it didn't work out.
It's so funny to me, though, because you had Matthew Stafford for 12 years. And Terry, you never built a front office, a head coach, or a legitimate roster outside of maybe 2 seasons. Never, ever, ever. Never, ever, ever. And now it's rushed to get the... Why? Why? Looks like you have the front office. To be determined on the head coach. I don't need Jared Goff to be excellent. I can win with average in this league. It is proven. In the NFL, you can win with average. You just can.
And you know what? You know what else you have? You no longer have a Ford in charge.
Yes, that's right.
Sheila changed her name. I'm Sheila Hamm.
Terry, it's been a minute since I would say since 2014, where people are going into a season, and the end of 2014, where the following season you're going in with expectations. And I don't think the expectations the fan base has this year are unrealistic. Even your friend Ryan. Now, minimum 9? Oof. That's quite the bar. Given there's a lot of unknown factors, and it's a young team. And what happens with young football players? Typically, they are inconsistent. You're not getting the same thing week in and week out. But let's say I look past it and everything goes right. Terry, again, I would say it wouldn't surprise me. Would you be surprised if they won 9-10 games? I wouldn't.
I would be slightly surprised. 7, I wouldn't be surprised. 5 or 6, I would be surprised. I'd be like, what the hell's going on here?
So you agree the offseason not only changes and signings, but the draft has impressed
I
you?
also think that the mentality in that locker room has been changed. And you didn't necessarily see it in 3-13-1, but the way they think and the way they're motivated is different.
I'm going to give you a list of coaches. I'm not going to include Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, even Pete Carroll, some of the guys that are obviously have been very successful. Let's just go with coaches that fit the age and experience of Dan Campbell.
Okay.
Well, Sean McVay's in his 6th year now, going into his 6th season as an NFL head coach.
Yes.
He has a, my mind is going a million places. He has a 55-25 record. Obviously, they just won the Super Bowl, so he's now elevated himself. Maybe not the most fair comp. Kyle Shanahan, a losing record in the NFL up until last year, but now multiple NFC title games. You can win. Okay. Mike Vrabel, does that fit Dan Campbell maybe a little bit more? Can you see Mike Vrabel and Dan?
Mike Vrabel is the guy I wanted them to bring in instead of Matt Patricia.
I remember those conversations. That was a thing. That would have been one of those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But again, I don't know how I feel about the Matt Patricia thing anymore. Like, he's such a fat, you know what? I don't even have to insult him. Just his name is an insult alone. They tried to take the next step. They completely botched it. Sean McDermott with the Bills. There's Matt LaFleur with the Packers. Kevin Stefanski with the Browns. That's it. I mean, those are the youngish coaches that are successful. Cliff Kingsbury, if you want to count him, sure. Zach Taylor, sure.
But a lot of these guys still have something to prove. I think
Yes.
Stefanski could lose the Browns.
Absolutely.
That could be a failure there.
It could be, but he's got the best quarterback in the division outside of Joe Burrow. So,
But a quarterback who has a losing record.
very true with a losing franchise, though.
Correct.
Right? And we saw what, granted, Cleveland is a losing franchise. And I'm not so confident that Amari Cooper is going to solve all their problems, but I think they'll be good. I don't think they're going to be excellent. I still think they're a few pieces away, but this should be a lesson to everybody. We've seen coaches walk into the league and just be successful right away. We've seen coaches struggle early on and then be very successful. And Dan Campbell, after a 3-13-1 season, could be the guy that struggles for his first year, slightly improves his second year, takes off the third year. But if there's no takeoff by the third year, Terry, oof.
Would you just be concerned, or would you?
I'd be ready
Would
to
you get
cut.
on the air saying get rid of his ass?
I'd be on there saying get rid of him.
Okay.
See, no, I'm not. I am very patient, but I'm not complacent. When I can identify your ceiling as a head coach, you're done. If I don't believe you can win me a division, that is so pathetic. That is so pathetic. And if in 3 years you have not competed for the division, why the hell should I give you year 4? Why? If I believe I have a roster that can do it. And on top of that, let's say you evolve. You now have a division-winning head coach, a playoff-winning head coach, may I add, that wins you a playoff game, wins you a division, contends for the division. Okay, good. Great. I absolutely love you. I believe I have a Super Bowl roster, let's say. Those aren't good enough.
No, you're right. Here's what I will
You see where the
caution
ceiling?
you.
You see where the ceiling changes?
I
I'm not
hear
talking
you.
about the Lions right now. I'm talking in situations where you have to understand. Do people believe right now that Matt LaFleur can get the Packers to a Super Bowl? I would say no. But he's been to multiple NFC title games, but he's lost them all.
Yeah, but his Hall of Fame quarterback turned into a.
Of course. No,
melon.
I understand. The point is, no one's getting rid of Matt LaFleur anytime soon.
No.
Regular season resume, playoff resume, too damn good. 5 years from now, if they haven't gotten back to an NFC title game, yeah, Terry, I'm going to probably have to move on.
Well, because the other issue is that his word is getting lost.
Yes.
For the most part, and there's exceptions, but for the most part, you can coach a team 7 years, then they tune you out. But there are exceptions.
Mike
There's
Tomlin,
exceptions, right?
Bill Belichick, even.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I start and tell me if I am maybe not ambitious enough. Feel free to tell me. I think the most important thing every single season, if you have a good team, is to win your division. That's the goal. Number one, always. Win the division first. When you win the division, we can talk about winning playoff games. When you win playoff games, we can talk about becoming contenders. There's a step-by-step process you have to take. You don't just become Super Bowl contenders. What the Bengals did is the first time in NFL history it's been done, which is a team that's drafted a quarterback number 1 overall, was in the Super Bowl within his first 2 years. Never happens. Never happens. Happened last year. An anomaly. A single data point in the 56 years of the NFL Super Bowl era. That's what you want to rely on?
I can't hate on you because my expectations are less than yours. People always say, why are you always on the Lions' ass? I said, tell you what, if they win a playoff game, I'm done. I'm fine.
See,
And that's not
young.
enough.
Maybe that's the difference because I haven't watched them suck for 50 years. I've watched them suck for 20. and maybe that, maybe I still have mileage that I need to get on me before I have that mindset. But
Sure.
yeah, no, I think football is very simple. As a sports fan, I think it should be this simple. Contend for the division. If you're winning the division year in and year out, like as a Packers fan, do you look at the last 25 years and say, damn, only 2 Super Bowls? That's disappointing.
I think they do.
I think you do.
Yes.
But I also think it's easy to do that now because you've had all those division titles. You've had all those playoff wins. You've had all those NFC title appearances. I don't mind if you're competing and you're coming up short, Terry, of something that only 2 teams every single season can get to, which is a Super Bowl. A thing that only 1 team every year can win, which is the Super Bowl. If you have Super Bowl or bust expectations for a team that hasn't won a division in 30 years, you're building your mindset incorrectly, in my opinion.
But
I think if this team,
here's the difference with the Green Bay. The reason you're pissed off in Green Bay because normally that NFC Championship game
Was
is
at
in
Lambeau.
the cold
yep,
at Lambeau. You're the favorite, and you've been playing great up until then, and then you lay an egg. That's why. That's the reason it's
and that's
very
a
disappointing.
different story. Everybody's story is unique. It can be disappointing and amazing for different reasons. But at the end of the day, if you want to get rid of the same old Lions stigma, it's not with a playoff win. It's over a 6, 8, 10-year stretch. You win multiple divisions, multiple playoff games. Dare I say, you get to an NFC title game. You become a legitimate franchise. I'm not asking for 15 years of dominance like the Patriots, like the Steelers. I understand that's very difficult to do, even with a franchise quarterback. But you can't go to the playoffs in your history, Detroit, 19% of the time. That's pathetic. You should be damn near 30 to 33%. I think 1 out of every 3 years you should be in the playoffs, minimum. That's a good franchise, in my opinion.
No, that's a mediocre franchise. When you look at the NFL, mediocre franchises make the playoffs 3 out of every 10 years. So that's 30%.
Give me a mediocre franchise, real quick. Just name one.
How about the Cleveland Browns?
Cleveland Browns. Okay.
I'd say they're mediocre.
I think, well, they've been so.
Anybody else in the division? Minnesota, Chicago?
All right, we'll do Minnesota. Minnesota is a great example. The Minnesota Vikings. Here. We're going to go over their playoff history. This is going to be fun, actually. You ready for this, Terry?
I'm ready.
Since the year 2000, or how far back do we want to go? 1990?
Sure.
Well, let's start from 1990. Since the year 1990, in how many years? What is that, 32 years?
Yes, sir.
They've made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 of the 32 years.
Okay. And that's...
And your words, which is insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
The quote mediocre, they're above 50% of the time they're making the playoffs.
Right.
And the Lions are sitting there all time at 19%. Now, if I go through their all time, since 1961, they've made the playoffs. So what would we say? 17, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. 32 out of the 61 years they've been in the NFL. More than 50% of the time the Vikings have been in the playoffs.
Right.
And they haven't been to the Super Bowl since the 70s, right?
Correct.
But as a Vikings fan, how do I get frustrated with a team that wins a division every 2-3 years, gets to the playoffs every other year, wins playoff games every other 3-4 years, 5 years? It's tricky.
You do get upset.
You get
because
disappointed.
You have higher expectations.
Thank you.
Because you hate the Chicago Bears. Because the Bears take something from you. You hate the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, not the Vikings, but the Green Bay Packers, because they take something from you. The Lions, I mean, you can't really hate anybody because you're not really competing with them. They're not taking something away from you. You're taking away from yourself.
A mediocre franchise, let's say.
You know who the Lion fans make fun of? The Bears.
The Bears?
Check
So let's do
them
the
out.
Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears record since 1990. Let's do 2000. It's a lot.
Okay.
That's a ton
We don't need
of
to know
data.
stuff.
So since the year 2000, the Bears have made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. 6 out of 22. So that is what? Percentage of 27%.
Okay.
In the last 20 years, the
That's
Bears
not
have
great.
made it 27% of the time. In your franchise's history, Lions, you've made it 19%.
You know what the Bears have done in that time, too?
They've been to a Super Bowl.
They won 2 division titles.
Yep, that too. And they've won multiple playoff games. Since the year 2000 for the Lions, they've made the playoffs 3 times, which means they are getting to the playoffs, Terry, 14% of the time. Less than their current all-time average. That is the fundamental problem, I believe, with a big part of this fan base. Not everybody, but you need to understand this. You need to look at your own division, your own self, and say, if I am not competing in the division, the hell am I to think Super Bowl, win playoff games? You know how you win playoff games consistently, guys? By winning your division. Why? If you're good enough to win your division, you're good enough to win a playoff game. Yeah, you can be the 7-8 seed, or excuse me, the 7-6-5 seed that sneaks in. You're in a talented division, you didn't win it, so you end up winning. Fine, that happens. We saw it with the Rams, Seattle, all these years. You can go back. It happens. The teams that win consistently in the playoffs, even the Packers, they may get knocked out all the time. They win a damn playoff game. They typically don't go out in the first time like they did this past year. Rarely happens. Win your division. Host a playoff game. Win a playoff game, dare I say. Build a legitimate 10, 15-year run where you've won your division 7 times in 17, 18 years. Where you've made the playoffs 13 out of those 18 years. I'm not asking for much, Terry. Maybe I am. I don't know.
No, you're not.
I don't want to be. If you could be a 60% win rate, go for it. But if you could be the Minnesota Vikings, Detroit, what a franchise you would be. A respectable franchise. A winning franchise. Could you get to the Super Bowl? No. Sorry. They didn't get to it with Case Keenum. They didn't get to it with Kirk Cousins. They almost got there with Brett Favre. Okay, fine. They haven't gotten there. Fine. Frank Tarkenton, they didn't get him. They didn't get there with him. They were on the doorstep. They've gone to multiple NFC title games. I'm talking about Minnesota. Detroit, you get into a wild card game against Seattle and lose, what, 26-6? 27-6? And you're proud of that.
It was by 20.
And you're proud of that, and you're proud of that head coach. Because you get to the playoff 50% of the time. I'm just going to get into it.
Do it.
Oh boy.
You know, a lot of
Full
talk
send.
about the number 5 overall pick. Who they should take?
Oh.
You know, the gorillas come out and they start,
Yeah.
pounding their
That
chests.
was a big debate yesterday.
Yeah, we'll call it a
Big
debate,
debate.
whatever you want. How the Detroit Pistons can build a championship roster around Cade Cunningham. And, guys, as much as I want to sit here and say, well, you just get multiple superstars and then we close the book, that one, it's not that easy, especially if you're not able to bring superstars via free agency. That's one of the modern ways that these super teams or superstar-oriented teams are built. That is something Detroit could struggle to do. Now, could they get a very good number 2, a very good number 3 in free agency? Absolutely. But the only way they're going to be able to develop 1A alpha stars is through the draft. That's it. And I want you to look at some of the teams that are in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals right now. The Golden State Warriors, yes, one of the rare modern dynasty super teams that were built through the draft. Draymond Green, second-round pick. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, first-round picks, right? So that is your anomaly, but it is also not really an anomaly. It is only an anomaly based on success. But if you look at Boston, multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearances. Always typically getting out of the first round, contending, competing. Young, early in the process. Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Now, 4 or 5 years into their careers, they're a much better version of what they were not too long ago. But again, the Celtics drafted them. Okay, let's look at the Dallas Mavericks. One superstar player. The Mavericks look like the Pistons to me. Although their talent, I could argue, could be worse, to be honest with you. They've just had more time to build around Luka. And what they've built around Luka is a bunch of undrafted free agents and second-round picks that just aren't good enough. So I don't want to hear any Luka slander this morning. Yes, his ball usage is up. He is giving his teammates open looks. Can't help him there. They're down 3-0 in a series. But look at them. Cade Cunningham could be your Luka Doncic. What else do you have to offer on the Pistons? Sadiq Bey, very nice. Okay, like him. Can he be a legitimate number 2? I don't think so. He hasn't shown that he could consistently deliver 22, 24-point performances night in and night out. And that's what you're looking for. And then I look at of course, Miami Heat. Not necessarily built through the draft, right? But, the Bam Adebayo. Signing a free agent of Kyle Lowry, not an alpha one. Victor Oladipo they traded for. Jimmy Butler, not an alpha one, but you can put pieces around and be successful. Now, do you want to win an NBA championship? Of course you do. But how do you build a championship-level roster? It's through the draft. If you want to pair Cade Cunningham with a superstar. If you want to surround him with veteran pieces and proven players, well, that's what free agency is for. But just the FYI, Detroit Pistons fans, I find it very difficult to believe you are going to land one of the coveted free agents, unless, and again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Maddie, which was possibly Devin Booker in 2024. Lots of talk surrounding DeAndre in the summer. He's a restricted free agent. I don't want to get involved in that chatter. I don't think it's important right now. But what you need to build around Cade is you need to give him shooters. Make sure there are shooters on the perimeter. You're going to need a pick-and-roll big man who can also stretch the floor and give you some three-pointers a night. Marvin Bagley, you saw what he did for Cade Cunningham the moment he arrived in Detroit. The pick-and-roll game was absolutely amazing to watch. And then you look at depth. Depth is so important in the NBA. You look at Killian Hayes coming off the bench, Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench. I can look at that and say, okay, that's my defensive unit coming out of every, 14 to 18 minutes a night. Isaiah Stewart probably less minutes. Killian Hayes maybe more than that. That's the future of this team. Cade Cunningham is your alpha 1A. And who's the 1B? Devin Booker in 2 years? Is it Shaedon Sharpe at 5? Jaden Ivey at 5? whatever ends up happening, the truth is, you're 4 years away, Detroit. I think that's the number. I really do. And if any of you disagree, lines are open all day today. All of you. 313-552-6322. Be my guest. I think it's a 4-year process. Now, when I say it's a 4-year process, I mean to get to an Eastern Conference final. Can you make the playoffs next year or the year after? Yeah, I think so. I do. Cade has shown a unique ability to make everybody around him better. Luka has done that. You look at even Trae Young last year, they made a run. It is possible with these young up-and-coming players to have some success. I don't believe it's championship-level success, but do you expect to win a championship before he's in his prime anyways? Cade's only 1 year in, guys, so you're looking at another 4 or 5 years before he enters his true prime, where he becomes a top 3, top 5 player in the NBA, which I believe he can be. So...
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up too. I think we forget sometimes how lucky we are that Cade can play with literally anybody. So regardless of, the actual player, the size, the shooting guards that we need, he can make everybody around him better, and I think that speaks huge for him and the Pistons as well. So, I mean, we could see him flourish next year with a new team, with, whoever we decide to put around him. I think they can still be just as great. I think maybe 4 years is a little bit too long, but...
Is it?
Maybe.
Okay, so the Warriors drafted Steph Curry. They had 3 29, 30-win seasons in a row. They then won 42 games in year 4. And then finally, year 5, once Steph started to come into his own, and Clay and Draymond, it was Mark Jackson. It was 50 wins. It was first round, second round. And then it was year 8, year 9 of Steph Curry, and it was Steve Kerr. Championships, finals, 3, 4, 5 consecutive finals, I believe. Unbelievable. And then it's now they're back there one more time. They could be.
Yeah.
They're up 3-0 right now. So, yes, you built through the draft. And I expect a dynasty out of Cade Cunningham. That is so unfair for me to even put on him 1 year in. But I think the point is you can build around him.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time. Killian Hayes is a baby. Sadiq Bey's still
They're
a young
all
kid.
babies.
They're all babies.
They can't even drink.
It's one of the youngest rosters, if not the youngest roster in the NBA. So, I look at this basketball team and I say they're early in the process. If you want to expect them to vie for a play-in game, I don't mind. But I'm not going to sit there in the first round and say they should be contending. No.
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't.
I think that's not realistic, but I think 4 years is, I don't know. When I look at Cade Cunningham, we've said it all year long. He just plays like a veteran. Has that slow game. He thinks before he acts. That is something that I think is different than
Sure, but
Steph Curry.
4 years based on the fact that I don't think they signed a superstar free agent. Now,
Yeah,
if they go get
that's
Devin
fair.
Booker in 2024, that speeds up the timeline. And even if they get DeAndre Ayton this offseason, I don't believe that significantly propels them into a top 4 seed where they become instant contenders. You still need to surround him with shooting. You haven't addressed what you're going to do with Jeremy Grant. And a lot of people are saying, flip Jeremy Grant for the number 4 pick, the number 7 pick, for another rookie? So you're going to pick 2 players in the top 5. And they're supposed to play with Cade. And their potential is possibly to be alpha status. Mm-hmm. Do we hear ourselves?
Right.
You can do it, fine. But don't tell me the Pistons are going to contend until 4 or 5 years from now. That's the reality. So, look, at the end of the day, Cade Cunningham proved his worth year 1. I thought he was exceptional. We don't need to get into Rookie of the Year conversation. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about it. I thought it was a joke. Whatever. I've made my point many times. But that guy, moving forward, is more capable of leading the Pistons to success than I would argue Scotty Barnes could for Toronto, Evan Mobley could for Cleveland, hell, even Jalen Green could for Houston. So, Detroit, you're in a great situation this morning. What are we, May 24th? Guys, I love this comment. I really do. People here are... By the way, you guys are awesome in the comment section. Shout out to all of you. You guys are freaking hilarious. Sometimes I'm trying to focus, and I just read some comments. I'm like, oh, my God. I do want to ask you one question, Maddie, before we skate out for a few seconds. Given Cade's rookie year, given all the development, I think people just need to accept Dwayne Casey's the coach for the next 2-3 years. I don't think they're going to fire him unless he is underachieving. And I don't think you can assign playoff contention to this team yet. Now, do you want to win a certain amount of games? Hey, I can respect that. But I think he's the coach not only next year, but the year after for sure. I don't see him leaving.
Yeah, and I was one of the people that wanted him out back in January or whatever.
So I'm asking you the question, honey.
But no, I agree. I think he is the coach for the next couple years, and I've said this previously as well. He's won the locker room. Those guys love him, and he's proven with the Raptors that he can build a team. He can, be successful. So I think he's that guy for us for the next couple years at least, and he has proven to make this team better as the season went on. So I think he's somebody that we can look forward to seeing for the next couple years for sure.
Absolutely. And again, just to clarify my timeline, the 4 years, everybody in the chat and watching at home, the 4 years is to get to an Eastern Conference final. You've seen Luka now do it. You've seen Trae Young do it. I think Cade possibly could be as good as Luka. Definitely, I believe he can be better than Trae Young, especially given his size and his ability to move on the court. Now, again, do I want to see the Pistons in the Eastern Conference final in 4 years and Cade is surrounded by nothing? A bunch of undrafted free agents, second-round picks? No, ideally not. Jalen Brunson, who's not showing up? No, ideally not. But you look at the Pistons, I think they're in a better situation. I think you can attach the Pistons more to the Boston Celtics, more to the Golden State Warriors in terms of how they're rebuilding than you would say the Atlanta Hawks or the Dallas Mavericks, because those teams are so star-centric. I look at Boston, Jason Tatum's the star, Marcus Smart is the second most important player, and then Jaylen Brown. And then I look at Golden State. Do I need to say it? Clay, Draymond, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Steph Curry. This team is built around selflessness. And there's one thing I love about Cade Cunningham, and that is his ability to be selfless. We talk about individual star players up and coming. Steph Curry, to me, is one of the greatest superstars ever because of his ability to just take a step back, allow everybody around him not only to shoot shots or to get theirs no. It's his ability to lead by example and by facilitating and getting his teammates better open looks. And for me, that is everything. I think Cade can absolutely do that. Can he do it to the level of Steph? Guys, I mean, he's going into his second year. I don't think that's fair or objective for me to even bring up.